Cameron, President Obama is facing pressure to think outside the box for his next Supreme Court justice, as you mentioned. And from the moment Justice Souter announced his retirement, speculation began swirling over whether the president would pick the court's first Hispanic justice. But now gay rights groups say the president should go for a different first, the first openly gay justice on the court. At least two members of the rumored shortlist would fit the bill, Kathleen Sullivan and Pam Carlin. Chuck Wolfe is the president and CEO of the Gay Lesbian Victory Fund. Chuck, why is it important for having a gay justice?
Well, I think the president has been very forthcoming about wanting to think a little bit outside the box. They've been working hard to make sure that LGBT people are available to serve in the government. You know, for many years we have not been encouraged to serve as out leaders. And I think it would send a very important message if there was an out member of the United States Supreme Court.
Here's the issue that I think a lot of people may have, and that is gay rights groups have suggested that for institutions like marriage that there should be no exclusion because of somebody's sexual orientation. If that's the view, then why should there be inclusion on something like the court because of somebody's sexual orientation?
Well, we're talking about inclusion.
And I guess, I'm sorry, just to be clear, I'm not talking about, you know, just because somebody's gay they should be excluded, but I'm talking about why should that be the basis, the sole basis, for example, for somebody being included on the Supreme Court? Right,
David, I understand, and certainly we're not talking about somebody's sole basis for being chosen for any executive or judicial post being their sexual orientation. What we are saying is that for a long time, sexual orientation excluded them from service. In fact, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act is still not the law of the land, and we still don't have an opportunity for all LGBT Americans to serve in their jobs without fear of being fired. In the case of a United States Supreme Court justice, if you've had 110 justices appointed and all but 4 of them have been straight white men, then it might be time to start thinking a little more broadly about who sits on the highest court of the land.
Do you think that the Obama administration is ready for the battles with conservatives that might ensue? For example, should he just pick somebody who just happens to be gay or lesbian? Nonetheless, there's still some on the right who would make an issue out of that. Do you think the president is ready for that fight?
I'm confident he is. I mean, the president has been very forthcoming about taking on big issues. He hasn't shied away from them. He hasn't shied away from them just because some people have said there's no chance of that happening. He's still going after big picture questions, and this is who should sit on the highest court of the land, and should an LGBT person be considered for that position. We're confident that somebody with sound judicial temperament, highly qualified, highly recommended, just because whatever their sexual orientation is, they shouldn't be excluded from the selection process. And there are certainly some very high-profile, strong caliber, qualified jurists or constitutional law experts that could be considered for this position.
Chuck Wolfe, the president and CEO of the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund. Chuck, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure, David.